Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Kirk Voclain, professional photographer of 40 plus years turned novelist. And we learn from him how visual discipline transforms into written narrative. We'll talk about his books and how to turn real world observation into compelling scenes, plan chapters with a photographer scout, and build a sustainable creative career without selling your soul. Welcome to the show, Kirk.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you having me here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Kirk. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people, a lot of writers, novelists from across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about journey. We'll talk about journey from photographer to becoming a novelist. So we'll talk about all this. And before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been a photographer. I did my very first wedding when I was 15 years old. So, I mean, I'm 63 now. So I've been photographing as a professional practically my whole life. I mean, it goes back even further than that. I mean, I think I was 8 years old when I saw the back of a Kellogg's Cornflakes cereal box and it said, "Save up your box tops and get a camera." And this is the camera right here. So go figure. I still have the camera. And I took pictures of my sister and my family and things like that. And then I think I was around 13 or 14 years old when I saw a professional camera, with an interchangeable lens, and I just had to have one of those. And I tried to borrow the money, but that didn't happen. And so I got a little paper route. I threw papers for 6 months, saved up enough money, went bought a camera, and I still have that camera. This is the camera it was. And a friend of mine who was getting married saw me with this camera, and he says, "Oh, would you take pictures of my wedding?" Now, at this point, I'm roughly 15 years old. And even at 15 years old, I had a bit of sense. And I said, no, I will not take pictures of your wedding. That's too much responsibility. And he begged me and begged me. And finally, one day I reasoned to myself, how can I tell this man no? And he understands no means no. And so I thought, I know, I'll say yes. He'll then ask for a price. And then when he asks for a price, I'll give him a price that's so high, there's no way he'll do it. So the next time he asked, that's exactly what happened. I said, yeah. He said, great. How much? And I said, $100. Because in my 15-year-old mind, that was an astronomical figure. And he then said, okay, I'll take it. So now I was stuck, and so I remember very vividly, even to this day, being at the reception and thinking to myself, I just made $100 doing what I love more than anything else. And I remember thinking to myself, this is what I want to do forever. This is what I want to do this for a living. And so I started doing whatever it took. I joined the library club so I could read every book I could get my hands on about photography. I started doing everything in that direction. By the time I was 17, I was the manager of a local camera store, even before I got out of high school, I was working at this camera store. And so, that's how the whole thing evolved until finally here I was a professional photographer. And that's the journey of me becoming a professional photographer. The journey to becoming a writer, a novelist, is interesting because, it goes back probably 30 years ago, maybe a little bit more. I was at an airport going through airport security. I was headed towards some job. I don't know what job it was. I can't remember. And in photography, on a tripod, there's a device that we photographers use to make it convenient, and it's called a pistol grip. That's what it's literally called. And the reason it's called that because, well, it looks like a gun, okay? And I'm going through security. The guy sees this in my bag. He freaks out. Two big old guys come up on the side of me, and the security is losing its mind. He wants to check my bag. I'm like, sure, I got nothing to hide, you know? And so when he pulls out this pistol grip, I said to myself, I even said to him, I was like, oh, that looks like a gun. And he's like, are you kidding me? And I just like, dude, it's not a gun. Keep digging, keep digging. You'll find that it's a camera, it's a tripod. Anyway, he did. And, you know, of course, I was allowed to go through security and there was no problem. But as I started thinking about the event, I thought to myself, you know, what if I really was a spy or some other clandestine type? And what I was doing was I was trying to sneak a gun on the airplane. And I was using photography as a way of disguising what I was doing. And all of that started resonating in my mind. And so for 30 plus years, I started writing this book. Okay. And anyway, it's just here recently that I took the time, I sat down and I said, okay, let's write it. Let's take all these stories that's been piling up in my brain and let's put it out on paper and let's actually create the novel Double Exposure. And so, you know, that's how it all happened. And that's the fast version of how it all happened. So, you know,
Absolutely.
I'm a writer now, go figure.
Absolutely, you indeed are. And I see two books written, Double Exposure and Boots and Stilettos. So we'll come to the books, but I want to understand, it's not an easy journey, easy thing to write. Someone, especially someone who is a photographer, you know, and it both are slightly different fields. Even the ideas could help, but how did you gather all that, you know, apparatus and thought process and everything and the patience to actually write a book?
Yeah, I people ask me that a lot, and here's how I answer it. I'm gonna let you help me answer it. It's said all the time. I assume it's even said in India that a picture is worth
1,000
what?
words.
Everybody knows this, right?
1,000
Okay,
words.
1,000 words. So as a photographer, that's what I do. I take a picture and I plant 1,000 words into your mind. That's what I do. I've been doing it for 40 plus years. Well, as a writer, I reason to myself, it's the same thing, but in reverse. I take 1,000 words and then I plant a picture in your mind. And so that's all I did with Double Exposure and the other one, Boots and Stilettos. I'll tell you that story in a minute. Is I basically take all these experiences, all these stories, all these things that's frankly happened to me, and then I take those 1,000 words and I arrange them in such a way that I'm painting that picture in your mind. And that's what if you go look on Amazon, you'll notice most of my reviews, that's what people say. They'll say things like, it's like a movie going off in my mind. And that's my goal. That is my goal. So for them to say that just charges me up like you wouldn't believe, because I am trying to do exactly that. So that's how a photographer can become a writer, in my opinion, is you just do what you normally do, but you do it in reverse.
Absolutely. So which was the first book, Double Exposure or Boots and Stilettos?
The Double Exposure was the first book. They're like totally. I did the thing that writers say never do. I have two completely different genres. Okay, Double Exposure is a thriller. It's a espionage. It's a spy novel. And Boots and Stilettos is a romance novel. And I'll tell you listeners, it'll be for the first time anywhere that I'm telling anybody this, but what happened, the way that happened is this. I was on vacation, and I don't know what it is about vacations. They charge me up for writing. And so I was in the hotel room, and I'm typing away and I'm writing Double Exposure. And the people, our friends that I call them our vacation friends, we were off with them, and Lisa is her name, and she said, Kirk, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm writing my novel. She goes, oh, you're a writer now? I said, yeah, I'm a writer. She goes, okay, well, I got a challenge for you. She said, I want you to write a love story. And so I'm like, that ain't happening. Okay. And she says, no, listen, it's about this Italian heiress who comes to America, comes to Montana. She falls in love with a cattle rancher. His name is Jake. Her name is Annie. I mean, she had it all laid out for me, you know? And I said, well, you got it all laid out. Why don't you write the story? And she says, no, I want you to write it. And she says, I want you to loosely base it upon me and Bob. That's her husband. And I just said, look, this ain't happening. And she said, come on, Kirk. She says, come on, what, you're not a writer? I said, I am a writer, but I don't write that kind of thing. She goes, oh, well, I got the ultimate challenge for you. It has to be clean. It has to be G-rated. And I don't know what it was about that just charged up my juices. And I was like, okay, I'll write one chapter. So I did, and I sent it to her, and she thought it was so cool. When do I get chapter 2? And so then I wrote chapter 2, still a joke, totally a joke. I'm thinking I'm just playing with her. And so I sent it to her, and she's like, oh, it's so good. And so I'm halfway through chapter 3, sending her, and that's like, this is going to be it. And I'm halfway through chapter 3, and I thought about it, and I started realizing that, you know, this is pretty good. So I just kept going, and now we have Boots and Stilettos. There you go, the second book. So this is the thing, though, I'm going to tell everybody. I ain't really told nobody this, but that I'm in the process right now of writing a prequel to Boots and Stilettos. It should be finished this week or next week. I'm kind of all the way to the last chapter right now. And as I was writing it, I realized I could connect both worlds. I have an opportunity, but the way it was written, because one of the main characters, he was in the CIA, you know, he was kind of clandestine, he was a spy, and he falls in love with this girl from Montana, and, you know, okay. Well, that guy is going to eventually be the grandfather of the main character in this book. Now, it's going to take me 2 or 3 books to get all this connected, but I am having a blast with this. This is like the most fun I've had in years, putting all these parts together and creating these 2 worlds that are eventually going to connect and become one world. So there you go, a scoop for you and your listeners.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what can other photographers learn from your writing, from your story?
Well, I mean, the double exposure book is full of real world photography stuff. Okay, I mean, like a Kessler crane, that's a real photography item, you know, light meters and cameras. Now, of course, there's some fake spy stuff like hiding a gun inside of a lens. I mean, that I don't know about. Maybe that really does exist, but anyway, there's some of that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of real world photography stuff. In fact, I have a teaching website for professional photographers, pro4um.com. And I thought to myself, I'm going to include that as part of the story. And in the book Double Exposure, he uses pro4um.com as where he gets his information. It's where he communicates with other spies. It's in code and this kind of stuff. But I mean, this is a real website. This is not I own it, but I mean, so that's why I connected that in there. And I even put the logo on pro4um.com for anybody who happens to go there and they say, oh, wait, that's the logo from Double Exposure. Yeah, it is. So anyway, real photographers will recognize absolutely a ton of things in this book. And I'll tell you another thing real photographers will know and notice is when you are a photographer, you absolutely, it's the most amazing thing to me how you can go and get into places that people, normal people, for lack of a better word, cannot. Secure, you can get past security, you can sneak into all kinds of things, all because you're the photographer. If you have a camera hanging around, this has happened to me countless times. I have a camera hanging around my neck. I walk up, a lot of confidence. Don't ask permission, just simply walk in. And if security questions it, if they go, hey, what are you doing? You go, I'm the photographer. Oh, they'll say, come on in. And it is amazing to me how many times that you're allowed to just enter the premises, no ID check, no background check, no phone call. Hey, does this photographer, I got a photographer here at the gate. Nothing. Just sure, come on in. And that is part of also the reason why, in some of the stories of Double Exposure, that I put real world things like that into the book. So I don't know. That to me is just how it all kind of developed into me being a writer now.
Absolutely, you are a writer now. So you are you are a photographer turned novelist, or a novelist who was a photographer? How do you see your career now?
No, I absolutely still a photographer. That's the crazy thing about being a photographer. I do for a living what most people call a hobby. So, I mean, it is a fun job. Okay. It is really a fun job. I mean, this is my van right behind me, that I work out of, and, I still, to this, in fact, I have several jobs today as soon as this little podcast is over with. And I still make a living doing professional photography. The novel part, to be honest with you, it makes a little bit of money here and there. I do little podcasts. People buy the book. That's pretty fun. It is absolutely not at a place right now where I'm making a living as a writer. Now, I would love for that to happen one day. And they tell me if you keep at it, it will. And so I'll keep at it because it is so much fun. It is just so much fun taking and telling these stories. I'll tell you another quick story if you got half a second. I love to play golf. All right. And there was a golf course that I played down in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. And the way this course is laid out, you play 3 holes and they bring you into what is known as a comfort station, which is, you drink tequila and you have some tacos, and anyway, and then you go play 3 more holes and then they bring you right back into that comfort station. And this happens throughout the whole golf course. So when I was playing it, I thought to myself, what a fantastic place for a clandestine meeting, because you could be sitting there with 3 other people, and anybody coming in and out of that place is going to assume you're playing golf. They don't know that you've been sitting there 3 hours. They think you've been playing 3 holes and then came back to the comfort station. And that's in the book, so it's a bunch of things like that, whereby just real life experiences, stories, things that's happened to me.
Absolutely, Kurt. So what can photographers, in terms of, in today's time when you see lots of things digital, AI happening, so many things happening, in photographers in several parts of the world may think, what else can I do? What would you like to tell them apart? Not everyone can be a novelist, but maybe they can be, but other things also. What would you like to tell them about surviving, thriving in a world like this as a photographer?
Well, first and foremost, my advice to any new photographer is do not get in debt. Okay, do your best to, I know that photography gear is extremely expensive. Do your best. I mean, some true real world experiences with me is if I bought something and I had to use a credit card because it was the only way to be able to afford it, and that did happen from time to time. I forced that piece of equipment to pay for itself. So if I did a job and it made $200-300 extra because I had this piece of equipment, that $200 or $300 went to paying off the credit card debt. So that's my first and foremost advice to anybody who's starting out, in photography. My second thing is this. I come from the world of film. That's where I cut my teeth. Digital is like almost a new thing for me. So I still shoot as if I was shooting film. And back in the day when you would shoot film, you had to buy film. Then you had to develop film. Then you had to process film. And then you would see the pictures. So you had to see it in your mind and understand the craft of professional photography before you could ever see the image. So again, my advice to someone, if you're struggling and you're taking thousands of pictures to get one good one, take a business card, tape up the back of your camera where that little screen is, and start practicing taking pictures without looking at that screen. Get it here in your mind before you get it on to the camera. Try an exercise of today, I'm only taking 2 pictures. That's it. I'm going to photograph that tree or whatever, but I'm only going to take 2 pictures. I'm not going to take 1,000 pictures. And now what that does is it forces you to look at it differently. It forces you to think. It forces you to decide what is the best angle, what is the best time, what is the best exposure. It forces you into all of that. And the output is a much, much better image. So that's my advice. Learn the craft of professional photography. Don't rely on the tools. Look, I use AI in professional photography a lot. I just happened to me fairly recently. I had a girl, I was photographing some high school senior portraits, and she made a comment about how much she loves mermaids. So I took that picture of her that I did using AI, and I added a big old mermaid tail to her, and I put her in the middle of the ocean, and all kinds of stuff that does not exist. And she loved it, and it was great. But you know what? You had to understand, before you could get to any of that, you had to understand the lighting, the technique, how to create it in such a way that what you end up with is an image that AI could then take and stick a tail on. So all of that is what I'm talking about. To me, in the world of professional photography, learn your craft and, spend time educating yourself. Don't just run around taking a bunch of pictures.
Absolutely. Learn your craft. So 2 novels, any other novel? You talked about the prequel also. What else?
Wait, say that again. You had a little breakup.
Yeah, I said 2 novels you have written, then you have the prequel there. And then, so how do you look at your life as a novelist from here on?
Oh, the Double Exposure's got 2 more books at least behind it, maybe more. I have like 1 paragraph. With Double Exposure is written from the perspective of Reed Sawyer. He's the main character. He's the good guy. The bad guy's named Barry Cox. Well, the very next book coming out, I'm going to take and flip that. It's going to be Barry Cox is the good guy. Everything's going to be from his perspective, and it's going to make like Reed Sawyer is the bad guy. So that's absolutely already in the works. After that, the book it sort of lends itself to a sequel. Like, okay, now what happens? Kind of ending. I mean, it isn't a horrible cliffhanger to where you're gonna have to wait years and years, but it does lend itself if I choose to continue on, and I do. So there's going to be another one. The very next one that I just talked about, I already know it's going to be called Counter Exposure. The one after that, I already know is going to be called Underexposure. So I know for sure those 2. And I also been playing with some small, like, I don't even know what you call it, but maybe like 10,000, maybe 15,000 word supplements that explain things, that sort of it makes the Double Exposure world expand. Like someone said the other day, who is this PPI organization in your book? I'm like, just be patient, it's coming. I got a little supplement coming for that. And so there's going to be a whole world around that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's just I'm having too much fun to suddenly just stop.
Absolutely. There is so much to learn about photography, about writing, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more from you about you. Get your novels. What's the best way for them to do so?
Just search my name. They're on Amazon, wherever you are, all over the world. I mean, if you search my name, Kirk Voclain, I'm the only one. That's one of the unique things about my crazy name. There's no other Kirk Voclain. So search, and you'll see the book come up. On social, just same thing. I mean, all the different social media sites. If you search my name, you'll find it because they all named that way. I have an author's website that is my name, kirkvoclain.com. My photography website, if you want to see the kind of work I do as far as professional photography, is kvphoto.com. I already told you about my education site, Proforum, PRO4UM.com. I just started also one other website, and it's FIIP.net. And that stands for Fresh Indie Ink Promotions.net. And my observations about the writing world is everybody's got their hand up. Okay, everybody wants you to pay for even the smallest promotion is hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I thought to myself, there's got to be somebody out there who's looking out for the indie authors, the self-published guys. So I'm like, I'm gonna create a website, and it's gonna be mostly free. And let's get out there and promote, self-published authors. So that's what FIP.net is. So anyway, that's me. That's where you can find me. Hey, send me an email. My email is all over the place. I'd love to hear from you if you enjoy my stuff.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.